Welcome to the Get Found Radio podcast. This is the show for entrepreneurs that are ready to get found and land clients so you can live your purpose. Here's your host, Jared Warner.
All right. Welcome to Get Found Radio.
Hello. So happy to be here.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining me. So tell the audience a little bit about your business, who you help, how you help them, and then we'll get into some cool marketing stuff. Hopefully come up with some cool ideas on how to grow your business.
Can't wait. That sounds exciting. My name is Michael Skinner. I am a business development manager for a restaurant consulting group that I started in Las Vegas called Restaurants Reimagined. And the idea behind the group is to redefine the dining experience. And the way we do that is by helping brands become more clear, kind of developing and integrating all their values, their mission, their vision into everything that they do, customer service, food, and all of that, bringing it all together in one cohesive package. And another thing we do is to help business owners in these restaurants identify the whole operational puzzle. As a small business owner, our target demographic is usually owners and operators who have 1 to 3 unit restaurants, and typically these owners they're doing everything themselves. They are a business owner, but they wear a lot of hats as a business owner. They play accountant, they play marketing agency, they play customer service manager, all these different hats that they wear in their role because they don't have a lot of help.
As well.
Yeah. And so, that's a good example. So sometimes I'll meet an owner who's very, very good at cooking food, whatever food, maybe it's like a Mediterranean place or like falafel or something. They're very good at what they do in cooking food, but they don't know the first thing about how to run a business. So that's where we kind of come in and help tie it all together and bring the pieces in. We plug the holes where there are holes, and we aid in whatever way we can to help bring them to profitability, grow their brand, develop their customer service, and the whole shebang.
So the one thing that stands out to me, and I have had this issue in the past with messaging, the message to market. It's difficult for them to understand or to admit that they're deficient in those areas, especially when they're the one that's doing it, even if they know it. So it's better to paint the picture of, like where you're going to take them, and rather than focus on the problems. But the focusing on the problems is something you do internally, like with yourself and your team. If you have one, you talk about the problems you solve, then you figure out who has those problems and how you solve those problems. And then you can create products that are tied to that, and packages and programs and, whatever, however you want to solve those problems, whether it's a digital course, one-on-one coaching, group events, there's all kinds of different ways that you can go around that. But the one thing that definitely stands out is it's difficult for people to understand or to admit when they suck at running their business. Yeah.
It's usually how I get them talking about it is to not even talk about it at first. I'll come into a restaurant, and obviously these people are wearing all the hats, so sometimes they end up being my server or cashier at the register, or I just notice they're wearing a different shirt, and I start a conversation, and it'll be very leisurely. It'll be very casual. I'll talk to them about how long they've been in business, what their passions are, get them kind of in a comfortable state. And I think that comfortability that I provide to them in a casual setting, it's not very salesy, and that helps them to kind of inform me of their challenges and their struggles that they're having in their business.
Cool. And so if you were to pick one problem that you solve, what would you say would be the number one problem you solve? There's, several things that we've talked about so far, but what would be the number one problem you solve?
Customer service, I think, would be the number one problem, because it ties into everything in the guest experience. When they walk in, there's just so many different factors that play into it. It's, what kind of experience are you providing people you sell your food to?
And do they identify that as being a problem?
No, I think it's symptomatic. And what I mean by that is that they'll point out what they think the problems are not the real problems. They're kind of the surface problems. And in the sense of customer service, they might say, "Oh, we have a bad review on Yelp. We have 3 stars on Yelp because we don't have consistent food, right? Our servers, or not our servers, our cooks will sometimes mess up, and they'll produce bad food. Sometimes somebody will get the same dish and they'll love it. Other times they'll get the dish and it's not that great. And so they think it's, an inconsistency in their cooks and the training. And I could agree with that, but if you look at it a little bit deeper, it's, you have to dig into that and see, why aren't they providing that inconsistency, or why aren't they providing that consistency that's required? And that ends up being something in the training process. Are you hiring the right person? What does your hiring process look like? Do they have recipe cards? What is the training program once they get into your business? Are they being trained properly? And so you can take it all the way back to there. And for me, I think customer service starts with your team. You as a manager, as a leader, as an owner, you have to be the customer service team for your own employees. And when you're treating them right, and you're providing them with the resources to succeed, they can give your guests the experience that they deserve.
So it sounds like, in the restaurant owner's eyes, the number one problem that they would like solved would be getting consistent 5-star reviews.
Yeah, that would be ideal for all restaurant owners, I would say.
Like if you could communicate that, like how to get consistent, effortless 5-star reviews, one after the other. That's what my program is. Like if you communicated that to them. And so that would be an example of giving them what they want, selling them what they want, but then giving them what they need. So here's what you want, but here's how we're going to go about getting it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would work on some messaging around that, because that's what they want. So ultimately, that's what you're going to deliver, but you don't necessarily need to tell them all the other stuff until you get into, like a Zoom call with them or something, and then you start breaking it down, how the program is delivered and your experience and all that stuff. Only then will they be open to it, because you focus on the result that they wanted. They want 5-star reviews with consistency. Yelp is a blessing and a curse to them. One bad review and it smacks you down. And, there's all that, all the stuff where, a lot of restaurant owners feel Yelp is against them.
Right.
The one thing that Yelp is not against is if your restaurant continually gets 5-star reviews, they will promote you. You will get preferential treatment. If you get one after the other, and everybody is happy, they will showcase that, because then that leads to a good experience on Yelp's customer, which is the person who has the Yelp app or is searching Yelp on their desktop. And that's what Yelp wants to do, is to deliver good experiences to those people. And if they do that, they keep coming back to Yelp. And if they send them to a place and they come back for a bad review, they may not want to use Yelp again. And so that's what Yelp cares about. And, they ultimately, everybody wants the same thing, happy customers, but that's the messaging that I would say on how to deliver it.
Okay. So focus on getting them the consistent 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I would call it something like 5-star, effortless 5-star review boot camp or something like that.
Maybe like 5 steps to 5 stars.
Something like that. Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then put like subheadline, how to effortlessly get 5-star reviews from, legit 5-star reviews, or, however you want to word that, and play around with it.
Right.
So the other thing, that would be kind of the messaging. The other thing I want to talk about is how to target those people. And there's all kinds of ways to do it. Now, are your customers, are they local, or are they, could they be anywhere in the country or the world?
What do you mean?
Do you deal, like if somebody was in, New York or LA, would you deal with them, or do you only deal with them in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I could, I think US based, I have a particular set of markets that I specifically can serve, that I have served, and would like to develop. So I would say it's particular, but it's not, and it's not necessarily local.
Okay. So they could be anywhere, really, United States restaurant owner, and they could become a client.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
cool.
let's take Las Vegas for example, because there's a pretty good foundation here. There's potential. The other markets that I was referring to is like New York City, Orlando, Florida, Los Angeles. So it's like these kind of restaurant meccas, right? There's so much opportunity to provide that service there.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. So one of the things you can do is build an audience inside of Facebook, and now you have to have a Facebook business page, an ad account, business manager, and all that stuff. In order to run ads, you have to have an advertising account. In other words, not a personal profile. And one of the things you can do is you can target those cities that you mentioned. Maybe starting with Las Vegas because you live there. So as you're starting to build up a bigger customer base for these programs, it might be cool to start it with the possibility of meeting them face to face. Don't have to, but it would be a decent place to start since you live there, and you could drive over and have a meeting and help close some extra deals. And then once you get the conversation fluid about who you help, how you help them, how the program's rolled out and all that stuff, then it's really easy to roll it out virtually. So just an idea on that. You can do it however you want. But if you were going to do that, you would target people who live in this location, and then Las Vegas in United States, and pick whatever radius you want. And then under the detailed targeting, there is a food and restaurants under industries. So it's demographics, work, industries, and then food and restaurants. But if you just start typing food and restaurants, then it should pop up, and just select it. The next thing you can pick to make sure you're talking to the right person is you can select Facebook page admins. So you would do that under, and must also match at least one of the following Facebook page admins. So now you know that they live in the city, so they're not just visiting, they live there. They are, food and restaurant is listed as their work, the industry that they work in, and they're the admin on the page. So you're most likely looking at, manager, general manager, owner, those type of people, or somebody who has influence over the business anyway. Okay.
Yeah, I like that idea. A couple questions there. Is there a way to filter out the people who would be like an ad agency? So like if I clicked, page admins, and those would pull up ad agencies that are managing the restaurant's page. Is there a way to distinguish between the owners themselves and those different agencies?
Yeah, you can exclude marketing and advertising and all that stuff on it.
Okay.
So you can narrow it further by doing that.
Okay.
The fact that it's under demographics, work, and industries, food and restaurant, most likely it's not going to be a agency, but you could take it one step further and exclude marketing, advertising people.
Okay.
And then the The thing that I would do here next would be just roll out simple videos. The first one, just kind of telling your story and what you do with no call to action. You're not asking them to do anything. Then you build a retargeting audience, video view audience, and you retarget them. And if they've watched, say, 50% of a 60-second video, and you want your videos less than 60 seconds, because the attention span, especially on a cold audience when they don't know you, is, they're not going to watch a 4-minute video. We'll just put it that way. But they might watch a 60-second video if it, is interesting. So you would retarget that and then show them video 2, and retarget video 2 and show them video 3.
Okay.
And so basically what you want to do is you're just kind of having a digital conversation, and you're just continuing it. So you basically, if you were to write out a script saying, like, as if you were doing it all at once. So then it flows from one to the next. So the videos don't stand on their own. The videos should be telling a story, if that makes sense. And so the first video would be just to connect and, tell your story about, just something interesting about what you do, but you're not asking them for anything, maybe provide some value. The next video, you would maybe demonstrate something that you could show them in less than 60 seconds that could make an impact. So you want to demonstrate or teach them something that they can take away. And then the third video, you would then ask them, to take the next step further, where you would want to have a conversation. And so that part is up to you. You can do it a number of ways. And more than likely, you're going to definitely need to test and see what works the best. So you might, have a call to action where the button is just to have a conversation in Messenger. You might have a call to action where they can sign up for a webinar. And I would do those shorter than not. I would definitely do that, very, very short. Like, if you can deliver something of value in less than 15 minutes, would be better, especially for a restaurant owner. They're busy. They're not giving you 60 minutes of their time. They will not finish that webinar. So if you can deliver it in 5 minutes, deliver it in 5 minutes, and make it automated so that they can watch it at any time. If they want to watch it at 2 a.m, watch it at 2 a.m. You can't make them, especially restaurant owners, you can't make them watch it at a specific time.
I really hate when people do that, especially when it's a recorded webinar. Like, you must watch it at only 2 times today, only available.
Yeah, I think hopefully those days are numbered. People don't really have that much patience for it. We're getting very used to on-demand content, and so marketing has to follow suit. Customer behavior is on demand. So you need to give it to them on demand. So whenever they want to watch it is the best time that they should watch it. And so one thing you could do. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to do a quick recap of this 3-video series. And you, is there a particular reason you recommended videos as opposed to copy? Strictly copy?
Yeah, and you can test this, but the biggest thing is that you can build retargeting audiences with video easily. Whereas if it's just an image and text, you can build an audience that is engaging with your ads, but not engaging with this specific ad. Not yet. At the time of us doing this interview, you cannot select specific ones, whereas you can select specific videos to retarget. And
okay,
that's
and you're basing this retargeting on watch time?
On watch time, yeah.
Okay.
So if they watch,
so that makes sense. So the watch
it,
time is the metric by which you gauge how interested they are.
Right.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense. Okay. So go ahead. Where you say with for example, for the webinar?
You can do a bunch of different things. So one thing to test would be a landing page where it kind of talks about all the benefits of your program, and then how how you're able to accomplish, the 5-star review process, 5 steps to 5 stars and all this stuff. And then when they fill out the form to get the webinar, you can put the webinar on the thank you page and then set it up so that it emails them the link to the thank you page. So in other words, just because they filled it out right then, they might not want to watch it right then. So you want to email them the link so that they can get back to it. Because ultimately you just want them to, watch it, consume it, and take the next step, which is, booking a call with you and ultimately becoming a client.
Okay.
So if you do that and then have, a follow-up sequence set, and, it's just a conversation. So treat it like a conversation, and you're just going to continue that conversation.
Got it.
So what would be the next thing that you would say to those people if, let's say, they watched 5 minutes of that video, and then they were just standing in front of you and they're like, Michael, that sounds great. I really love, what you're saying here. But they didn't call you. They didn't, book a call. They didn't do any of that stuff. What's the next thing you would say? You would go, okay, well, that's great. So here's the, and whatever the next things you would say if they were standing right in front of you, then you just automate that part and build an email follow-up sequence. And it doesn't have to be super extensive. A few emails spread out could be good. And then they drop into, a regular list where you're continually sending things.
Okay.
Do you have any questions on any of that stuff?
Yeah, in theory, it sounds pretty straightforward. I think the tricky part gets to the actual mechanics of it all, working together.
Yeah.
I'm a visual guy, so
yeah,
this is probably like a separate whiteboard sesh where I go through and I map out each part of the sequence. Yeah, pretty straightforward so far.
The next thing I was going to say is for events, if there's a restaurant event, you can do the similar thing where you use the address of the event, where the event's being held. And let's say it's for, restaurant business owners to grow their business or something, then that they're interested in that. Then you can use the targeting, not people who live in this location, but people traveling in this location, and then use similar tool or similar targeting based on that. So they're visiting that area. You do, a 1 mile radius around the, convention, and then you use food and restaurant, page admin, exclude marketing, all that stuff. And then you can use the logo for the event as your thumbnail. So when they're scrolling on Facebook, it stops the thumb scroll. It's like a millisecond and it's gone, but they'll see that. It'll register in their subconscious like they're at that event. They're already interested in that event. They see that as the thumbnail, and then stop and watch your video, and then you could do a retargeting sequence with that. With that one, you'd want to, demonstrate and teach and go one step further, because you already know that they're interested in growing their business. The next step is, you want to move that along really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would, definitely test that.
Okay. What is when I think about the target audience being the owners who can barely find an hour of their time for a webinar, how do I find out what events they might be going to? Because in my mind, I don't want to have a limiting mindset on where they are going and what they're capable of doing. So what's the best way to find these events or understand,
Yeah, you'll have to Google them, but I mean, likely they're going to be in Vegas. I mean, Vegas is one of the biggest, it has been for years, the biggest convention area. So I would just dig around and search like #1 restaurant convention or that kind of thing, and then just see what they're talking about. Like if it's, just a vendor thing or even that. I mean, if it attracts a bunch of people, those are your potential clients that are sitting there, and there's a whole pack of them, and you can drop right into their news feed. Your audiences are going to be smaller, so your budgets can be smaller. You might have a couple thousand people as opposed to, I don't know, 100,000. You might have, only a couple thousand people. And so you can spend maybe $5 a day or something and market to those people.
Yeah.
So you could spend like the day before and the day after, and then a convention's 2 or 3 days, run it for 4 days or something and spend like $20. Maybe you spend, $20 to $50. You might land some clients. Just a super concentrated area of potential clients. Yeah,
I like how specific it would be, and that's the good part about it is they're all, halfway qualified, and just before you even talk to them.
Yeah, no doubt. So I would definitely look into that, and then you don't have to travel there. You don't have to get a booth. You don't have to do any of that. You can just drop into their newsfeed.
Yep.
The next thing I would suggest would be going after LinkedIn, and you can target restaurant owners on that. There's a Chrome plugin called Duck Soup. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but you can set that up to send an initial connection message and send a connection request. And so you can just, you have to be logged into LinkedIn, and then you just set that thing to run. And there's a free version and a paid version. The paid version is only like $15.
Okay, so Duck Soup, that finds you your potential target audience and connects you to them?
Well, so what it does actually is just automates what you would be doing. So you would go into LinkedIn and then click in the search bar and type in, maybe second connections, restaurant owners. And then because if you have a second connection, then they're more likely to connect. You don't have to, you can do second or third or whatever. And then you turn Duck Soup on, and it sends, it visits the profile, sends a connection request, and sends a message all at once. So it automates that part, but you have to manually log in, search for it, and then turn Duck Soup on. And then you can just keep your computer on and just work in another tab, and it does its thing.
Okay. All right.
And then you got to make sure to have your profile, built up so that they know what you do and all that.
Yeah, of course. Well, let me jump back to that targeting for Facebook then, because when you're mentioning LinkedIn, I thought about Instagram, and I know that Instagram is a big place for restaurants. So does Instagram play into the equation for Facebook ads, or is that a completely separate platform?
It does. Just make sure when you run a video, run a square video, and then the same exact thing applies. So in the targeting, you would target Instagram and like Instagram stories and Facebook newsfeed. Just target those two.
Gotcha.
And then your video should be 1080 by 1080 if you're going to run Instagram as a placement. And then that's a square video, which is nice on mobile. On
yeah,
Facebook.
Because I feel like that would be a good place to catch them too, because they're there posting and looking and
yeah, no doubt. Anything that else you want to cover?
Well, I think you've been very helpful so far in kind of identifying different ways to get in front of these potential clients, and then just walking through the mindset of the messaging, focusing. I really like what you said about how they might not even be aware of their problems, and if they are aware, they might not even want to admit them, because that's something I hadn't thought about. And focusing on what they do want, their solution, is probably a better way to go about it.
Yep. Sell them what they want and give them what they need, which is, the same thing anyway, but just a different way of messaging it, and you'll have a lot less resistance.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's been very helpful, and it gives me some stuff to chew on for now.
Okay, cool. Well, I'd like an update after you implore all this stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate your help, and I can't wait to bring back some good news.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Get Found Radio podcast. If you like the show, please hit subscribe to listen to some amazing upcoming episodes. We would also love if you left us an honest rating and review.